Good morning, guten Nachmittag, konbanwa. Welcome to another GPP video. It's me, Diogenes. We're gonna be talking about the American colonies and their differences in economies and culture. The southern colonies consisted of Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. These colonies' economies depended on agriculture, meaning that southern colonies grew mostly cash crops, which is sold for big profit. These cash crops included tobacco, rice, and indigo. Since they used slave labor as well, they got extra rich. The culture from having enslaved Africans as your main workforce encouraged the mistreatment of them, as most colonists considered them as second or lower class citizens. Besides the culture from slaves, colonies like Virginia had people living in scattered farms, with some making up plantations. In Maryland, the colony was proprietary, meaning the colony's proprietors or owners controlled the government. Around the 1640s, Protestants began moving there, and rather quickly religious conflicts arose between Catholics and Protestants in the colony. So the government passed the Revolution Act of 1649. The bill made it a crime to restrict the religious rights of Christians, which made the bill the first law supporting religious tolerance in English colonies. In both North and South Carolina, it was originally a single colony until it split in 1712 due to the settlements being far apart. In Georgia, the original idea by James Oglethorpe was where debtors sitting in prison could make a new start at his colony. Compared to other colonies, Oglethorpe outlawed slavery, reducing the chance of someone getting too rich and stopping the chances of other debtors. But in 1742, the British government made Georgia a royal colony with new laws. The middle colonies consisted of Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and Delaware. These colonies' economies were pretty stable as the colonies had good climate and rich land. With these factors, the colonies mostly grew stable crops, which are crops that are always needed. Some stable crops include wheat, barley, rye, oats, maize, millet, soy, and quinoa. The colonies also had more indentured servants than slaves and relied on trade. The culture of these colonies is different depending on where you go. Both New York and New Jersey and parts of other colonies were originally part of New Netherlands. New Netherlands was the only Dutch colony in America. It was a trading post for exchanging furs with Iroquois and other natives. King Charles II wanted to control the entire Atlantic coast of America, so they began an incursion on the colony. The city of New Amsterdam was surrendered, though during the Third Anglo-Dutch War, Manhattan was reclaimed by the Dutch. New Netherlands had a bunch of patroons, which were basically just lords. They received generous land grants and were religiously tolerant. The patroons bought over Jews, French Huguenots, and Puritans. In various colonies, there was a growing group called the Quakers, who believed in the equality of men and women before God. They supported nonviolence and religious tolerance. However, due to the lack of religious belief in supporting equality for women, the Quakers were often prosecuted in both England and America. Seeing this, a man named William Penn wished to found a colony under his own control that would provide a safe home for Quakers. King Charles II approved and gave Penn a charter in 1681 to establish a colony west of New Jersey known as Pennsylvania. William Penn, wanting equality and fairness, limited his power and established an elected assembly. He also promoted religious freedom to all Christians, and also named the capital of Pennsylvania Philadelphia, which means the city of brotherly love. Later, in 1682, the Duke of York sold Penn a region to the south of Pennsylvania. This area he sold was modern-day Delaware, which remained a part of Pennsylvania until 1776. New England consisted of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. The economy in New England was poor as they had a harsh climate and rocky soil, which didn't promote farming. As such, Massachusetts trade was vital to the economy, and fishing was the leading industry, followed by shipbuilding and any other job which required skilled craftsmen. The culture of these colonies is completely different depending on where you go, besides the fact most of the colonies were pilgrims and Puritans. Before Massachusetts even existed, there was a great migration from England to America due to religious persecution. On the 16th of September, 1620, a ship called the Mayflower set sail with 100 men, women, and children. The Mayflower were originally heading for Virginia, but when they got off course, they decided that they were going to start their own colony with their own laws and social rules. And so on the 21st of November 1620, 41 of the male passengers on the ship signed the Mayflower Compact, which was a legal contract in which they had agreed to have fair laws to protect the general good. It finally ended in late 1620 on Plymouth Rock. Unfortunately for the settlers, they struggled throughout the winter to build the settlement and nearly half died during the first winter from sickness and freezing weather. After finally setting up a colony, a Native American named Samoset walked boldly into the colonist settlement. He gave the pilgrims useful information about the people and places in the area. He also introduced them to a native named Squanto. Thanks to Squanto, the pilgrims learned how to farm sandy soil and also helped them establish relations with local natives. In celebration of their improving status as a colony and relations, Governor William Bradford decided they should have a celebration so people could give thanks to God. He also invited the native chiefs Massasoit and 90 other guests to celebrate their first harvest. This harvest is known as Thanksgiving. The feast included wild turkey, fish, and lobster. Although the colony wasn't making nearly as much money as other colonies, they were a strong community, with pilgrims actually teaching their children how to read and write. They sometimes even educated their indentured servant. That way, everyone could read the Bible. Compared to England, women have had more legal rights and were able to do things such as make contracts, sue people or companies, and own property. Massachusetts had to obey English law. However, the colony's charter provided more independence than a royal charter. Having more independence allowed Massachusetts to be a self-governed by creating a general court. The colonists sent in 2 or 3 delegates to represent a certain group of people or town or neighborhood in the general court. In 1636, Thomas Hooker and his followers left Massachusetts to help found the colony of Connecticut. Around the same time, Roger Williams, a man from Massachusetts, didn't agree with the leadership skills of those running Massachusetts at the time. He called for the church to separate completely from other New England congregations. He also criticized the general court for taking land from natives without paying them. He was then forced to leave Massachusetts. He took his followers and founded the colony Providence, which later was renamed to Rhode Island. Anne Hutchinson, the first feminist, lived in Boston, where she publicly discussed religious ideas that leaders thought were radical. She believed that people did not need ministers to guide them in their relationships with God. For believing these ideas, she went on trial. The general court exiled her, and she left with her followers to found the colony of Portsmouth, which later became a part of Rhode Island. Thank you all for watching this video. Hopefully new videos should be coming out soon, and I'll see you all next time.